Hi there, Colin Lamb from Adelaide Hills Hedges here. In this video, I'm going to be discussing gas versus battery. And specifically in this video, it's the top of the range Husqvarna products as of June 2025. But I think that the information that I'm going to be providing you with is going to be applicable across different ranges and different machines approximately. So let's get right into it. The first thing we're going to look at is power. And in terms of power, this hands down, and I do want to say, without any comparison, is much more powerful than the battery stuff that is currently available right now. And for that reason, I prefer using this on either stuff that hasn't been trimmed in a long time, where you can have thicker kind of volume. Branches, usually I use a guide about pinky size finger. If you've got evergreen or softer wooded stuff like viburnum or photinia, this will plow right through that, so I don't need to get the manual tools out. And this, if you overwork this machine, you're going to risk damaging the machine itself or dulling the blades. This, however, is better for finer material. The cut is better, and the finish is just a little nicer for whatever reason. I think it's because the blade system is slightly different. Category number 2 we're going to be looking at is weight. This, in general, will be heavier than one of these. This is a telescoping unit, so it does have a bit of a weight to it. But I find the balance to be quite nice. There is also a bigger battery, which does change the weight of the machine, but I find that on this longer unit, the heavier battery actually gives you a bit of a better balancing. In terms of the handheld units, these are always going to be more heavy, and they kind of don't make smaller versions of these where, in terms of the battery stuff, you can get kind of little miniature hedge trimmers, which can be used. So the weight on these is very nice, particularly when you get working at height. Category number 3 is sound. This is quite loud, like the plane that's about to fly over, and these are quite quiet. That being said, you should always use hearing protection. I use hearing protection pretty much all day. I listen to music and podcasts to make the day go by better, but this, it's not even a competition. And in this case, we'll do a little demonstration here. And now the audio on the video will probably clip out because this is much louder. So that kind of goes without saying what you'd rather listen to all day. I trim all day, 5 days a week. I always feel at peace when I'm using a battery equipment as opposed to the louder petrol equipment. Number 4, petrol versus battery smell and pollution, etc. This is a bigger conversation if you want to go into the manufacturing, the recycling, how they're made, where the materials that make them are sourced. That's a conversation I don't want to have in this video. But this, again, takes the cake in terms of, in my opinion, the smell. I don't have to smell petrol, 2-cycle petrol fumes all day. Sometimes if you haven't had enough coffee in the morning, you mix a little rich, you do get a little smoke coming out of there. These are gnarly to work with. I've been using these for about 25 years. I haven't had any health repercussions that I'm aware of related to 2-cycle use, but yeah, if any kind of confined situation inside topping a hedge or topping down in a slightly enclosed area, I would rather work with one of these all day long. Consideration number 5, and this is actually a very important one if you're doing this professionally, is how they perform on a ladder and how they start. Those two things are very relevant because it's much easier to do this on a ladder than it is at the top of a 16-foot pruning ladder doing something like this. And the second thing is, of course, with regards to starting, the battery in this, I can trim on one of these like solid trimming for about 4 hours straight. This guy here will run out of juice, run out of fuel at precisely the end of the day when I have one little stroke to do and I'm at the top of a very precarious ladder position. That's when they tend to run out of fuel. Same with a leaf blower. They run out of fuel right at the end of the day, right when you're farthest from your ute or your truck and you have a little bit of pulling to do. So hands down, this is nicer to work with on a ladder. Point number 6, maintenance. This takes the cake. And it's a complicated issue, but the be-all end-all of it is that this is the motor on this unit. What's inside of there, I don't know. I know where the gearbox is. I can open that up and grease it, but beyond that, I'm not really able to do much maintenance on it because I don't understand what's going on in there. I sharpen my stuff myself. The motor on this actually died, and it was under warranty, so Husqvarna at Shortcut Mowers here in Mount Barker, nearby, South Australia, they replaced it for me for free. The turnaround was great. But when I say the maintenance on this is better, I only mean that I can actually do it. I can rebuild one of these, you know, from a carburetor back, and I can take the whole thing apart and fix something and put it together. There is a costlier element to the maintenance on this. You need to buy fuel filters, you need to buy the paper air filters. There's a 2-stage filter, a foam filter. This needs greasing all the time, and of course you have the regular sharpening. There's also linkage problems that happen in these from time to time, but I've been running this machine straight for about maybe a little bit over a year, and I haven't had any problems with it whatsoever in terms of maintenance. They're both very good products, and I don't foresee a lot of anything other than regular maintenance. I don't see a lot of service issues, but this takes the cake because I know if it breaks, I can fix it. I can buy the components. Once this is out of warranty, if there's something wrong in there, I'm at the mercy of the dealer. I do have a good dealer that I go to, but again, what's it going to cost? I have no idea. Speaking of cost, let's look at the overall cost. I can't remember what I paid for these, but I'll try and put the numbers up on the screen. You buy this, you buy the 2 components. This is a combi unit, so it's a motor and then detachable pieces that you can get, extenders and linkages. This is a pole extension, which is superior to the multi-piece extensions because, again, you don't need to come back off the ladder to extend it out. But once you buy this, you're pretty much ready to go once you have the gas and a little bit of spray for the blades. Whereas this system here, you need to buy the unit, then the battery, and then the charger. And if you're serious about trimming, you probably need multiple batteries. So again, I'll probably put the cost of that up here so you can see the initial cost. Ongoing costs, you're going to need, again, the filters, spark plug. You know, you might burn a fuel line out over time. So there's ongoing costs of this. Once you get into this thing, this is probably cheaper in the long run because there's no consumables like filters, etc. And the cost of charging the batteries is so minimal, I don't even notice it on any kind of homeowner's bill. So I would say long term, the cost of this is going to be less than this. The linkages on these always tend to break, and over time you will blow a gearbox in here. Again, you can fix it. How much is it going to cost? But in a year, for example, I probably use 2 sets of filters and a spark plug. So this is probably more expensive in the long run, cheaper off the hop. So in my conclusion, which is better? Well, there's a short answer and a long answer. The short answer is this is better. If I had to just buy one piece of equipment, I would buy this and the extensions. It's more powerful, meaning I can trim anything that I need to trim, and I can fix it when it needs to be fixed relatively easily and on my own time, instead of dropping it off at a shop in most cases. The long answer is that I use them both for different things. This is what I use for thicker material, stuff that hasn't been trimmed for a while. A lot of the broadleaf stuff I'll trim with this. And this guy here I use for the finer work. I use this for the sides, for example, and I use this for the tops, and I'll probably put a time lapse at the end of this to show my usages of both. This is great for boxwoods. If you've got a big long line of boxwoods, you can just set it like that and just walk alongside here. These guys, for whatever reason, the gas stuff never does as good of a job on boxwoods as this electric stuff. I couldn't tell you why. So short answer is, if I was starting up my business, which I did here in Australia. I've been in business for over 20 years, but I started a new one when I moved here to Australia, and I needed just one piece of equipment. I actually had access to an old unit like this that I refurbished. You can check that out on my channel. I refurbished an old unit, and I ended up using it for over a year before the drive shaft had some issues, and I just wanted to buy a nice new one because I had a little bit of money to do so. But yeah, I would pick this if I could just have one of those. And right now, in general, I would say it's a complicated answer, but just one trimmer would be this. For fine work, I prefer this. Not maybe the definitive answer you were looking for, and maybe in the future the gap between the two, but in terms of power, might change. Who knows how reliable this is going to be long term. I have a feeling it's going to be very reliable because I use the heck out of this thing. So anyways, those are my opinions. If you have differing opinions or you would like to add something, please do so down in the comments. please go check out some of my work on my channel, as well as on my Instagram and Facebook, which I'll put links to in the description or maybe here in the video. And thank you very much for watching this video. Take good care of yourself and take good care of your eyes and ears if you do work like I do, because you cannot replace those things, unlike a fuel filter. Bye-bye.